Well, it was a first. The issue of guns came up in the debate about assault weapons, and if anybody had any doubts, President Obama gave us a preview of what is to come if he is reelected. Before we get into the specifics, I got to ask you, were you surprised the gun issue even came up?
I was surprised. I've been hoping it would because I think it's such an important issue in this election, especially because of the Supreme Court nominees that are likely to come in the next term. But to see it come out from Long Island and for Candy Crawley, of all people, to pick that question out, obviously they thought that would, work to their base, which are, anti-gun liberals. But it ended up really just instead energizing pro-gun Second Amendment people.
And, I don't know if he meant to say it like you pointed out in your column, but Obama made it clear. If he's going to do everything he can to reinstate the assault weapon ban. And then he also talks about those cheap handguns. So, that's on the target list, too.
Well, that's what I wrote in the Washington Times today, is about the way this president didn't just slip up and finally say, after 4 years, I want to reinstate the assault weapons ban. He has never said that before. He said it on national television with 70 million viewers. He then expanded it, and he said, I want to go look after what he called cheap handguns, what he calls cheap, in Chicago. So now he's not only going after guns that look scary, which is what the assault weapons ban does, but he's going to go after guns that are apparently not fancy enough for him because somehow those kill more people. And they're really, there is no price point on the Second Amendment, and it's just outrageous the kinds of things that he's even thinking about doing in a second term. And, the American people really know now what they're going to get either way.
Well, and it's also just like Larry Keane pointed out in his column, gun sales are up, crime is down, and yet we, under this administration, we see, he says he wants to go after criminals. Well, prosecutions are also down. So who's kidding who?
It's true. And Larry Keane, the general counsel for the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which represents all the firearms manufacturers and ammunition manufacturers, and his point was that the assault weapons ban was a failure. And for the liberals to continually put this out there as if somehow going after our guns would reduce crime is deliberately misleading. It was in effect for 10 years. It's been out of effect for 8 years. And in those 10 years, crime went up, gun ownership did not, and in the years since, gun ownership has gone up, and crime has gone down, because that's how it works. The more gun owners there are, the bigger deterrent it is for the bad guys. And we know that, but, the stuff that gets through the sort of liberal media and through the White House filter doesn't tell people that.
Yeah, and President Obama, he talks about, hey, this is all about public safety. We know what it's really about. It's about advancing his agenda, about delivering on his promises to the Brady campaign. And it's just what you have been covering for months now in Washington, D.C. It's about making it as hard as they can for the law-abiding to get a gun.
That's truly the goal. It's an anti-gun mentality. It's that we don't want people to have guns. And if we do let a few people have guns, we'll only let sort of rich, educated, smart, people. There's all those qualifications, basically themselves is really the only people. So there's this complete, the president does this lip service, I believe, in the Second Amendment. But, he followed up by saying, because people like to hunt. Well, that's not the intention of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was written so people could protect themselves from an owner's government and, could create militias and could be protected. It had nothing to do with hunting. So, the president only does that because he doesn't support the right to self-defense, and he doesn't agree with the Constitution. And, that's his problem to deal with. But, as we now know, though, the big shocker this week, I think, is that it's in black and white. It's very clear now. If you want a president who will put Supreme Court justices on the bench, who will very possibly allow the assault weapons ban to be reinstated, will not vote gun owners' ways on carry rights and what kind of guns can be banned, which are the things facing the court still, even in the wake of Heller McDonald, then that's Obama.
Yeah,
and if you want Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan, a hunter and gun owner,
right.
And Mitt Romney said in the debate, I do not want more laws for guns. So,
yeah, and he also used the question, which, you saw Candy Crowley trying to say, hey, this is about the assault weapon ban. But, he also brought up Fast and Furious for the very first time, and the fact that the president invoked executive privilege to try to keep those documents that ICE and his committee have been trying to get for months now. And they want to keep it all secret.
Yeah, and the way Romney said it was so telling, because the president deliberately uses the term automatic weapons.
Yeah.
He says we need to keep automatic weapons out of the hands of criminals. We need to keep guns off the street. They're intended for the military. He and the Brady Group people know full well that automatic handguns have been highly regulated since 1934. There are about 200,000 in the country. 100,000 are owned by law enforcement. So and there's no crimes being committed with automatic weapons, but he does that to scare people. It's a deliberate tactic, and that's what Romney said in context too. Is the president repeatedly saying we need to regulate assault, machine guns, automatic weapons, and Romney's like, well, the only ones who've given them out without registration are your own agents. Who are, let them go into Mexico and kill people, including one of our border agents.
Yeah, and they got to get in those buzzwords, Obama and his guys. They got to get them in, the guns, the weapons designed, for soldiers in war,
Yeah, or even assault weapon. I mean, the weapon, just because an assault weapon has one of three characteristics, a collapsing stock, a bayonet lug, or a pistol grip, does not mean it's going to somehow jump out and attack you.
No, it was all about cosmetics back then, and it still is.
Right. It's always been cosmetic, but it's also not assaulting you based on those three things. It's not like it puts a battery pack in it and makes it jump up and attack. So the whole phraseology is very deliberate, and the gun rights people are very smart not to fall for it.
Well, as you said, it really has had to rally the base of the Second Amendment supporters, anybody who's concerned about where their rights are headed, gun owners. I mean, Obama did us all a favor.
And where riot really, really matters right now, it's not so much nationally, is that these swing states, the battleground states, are strong pro-gun states. They're big hunters, they're gun owners, high rates. Those are the states that they need right now. Those are the only states that really are going to make a difference in this election. And Mr. Obama just basically said to them, I'm not a president for you.
Yeah, no, so true. So what did you think about the overall debate?
Overall, the president did a whole lot better. He no longer looks like he's annoyed that he has to run for president. He no longer looks arrogant. He's paying attention. So those are all good things for him. Overall, though, I think it is a really good way to hear both sides of their points of view, hear more about Obama's record, and hear more about what Mr. Romney is promising to do if he becomes president. And, it illuminates more for the voters the stark differences between the two men. And, like people keep saying, well, who won the debate, who lost the debate? I think what matters mostly is where the momentum from polls go after these debates. And since the debate started, the polls have moved dramatically into Mr. Romney's direction. In fact, he's leading by, I think, 6 points in today's Gallup poll. So, it's really made a difference. And so, obviously, these debates have turned out to be good for Mr. Romney because these real issues are being discussed.